I was in the shower when I heard the creak of the back door opening. A chill ran down my spine. I knew I wasn't alone anymore. My car was at the shop. Maybe they thought I wasn't home, or came in on purpose. Hey again, friends. We try to make each story as atmospheric as possible for listening. Each one is voiced separately and with different voices, as if the original author is telling it in their own words, so you can really immerse yourself and feel their emotions along with them. Good night and enjoy listening.
A few months ago, I made a very unremarkable post on r/symbology, asking about the meaning of a symbol on a necklace I found. While it seemed like most of the people didn't know what it meant, someone called Stan who asked to DM me. Either Reddit or the mods of Symbology hid the comment from the post because it was really hard for me to find, but he had a simple username, so I searched it and found him. This seems really stupid looking back on it, but I didn't find anything suspicious about him at first, and I just wanted anything resembling an answer as to what the symbol on the necklace was. He told me a bizarre story about how the necklace was an elder sign, and there were only 5 of them made, but one of the 5 owners passed away. It sounded like he was just making it up, but I indulged him and asked him about his crazy story, though I didn't think much of anything about it. I made another post a month later to RBI, asking about a set of missing persons cases I remembered from when I was younger, asking if anyone knew about it. It was completely unrelated to anything I've posted before, but Stan sent me a message about it, saying I should delete the post because it was about an ongoing investigation. He said I should delete the post about the necklace too. All of this seems super shady to me, since this just happened to be someone who responded to a previous post of mine. I asked him to send me some kind of proof that he was actually someone with authority on this, but he just kept urging me to delete the post, getting more and more aggressive. I ignored him, thinking he just wanted attention, and went on about my life. I'm a cashier at a convenience store, and a few weeks after I stopped messaging Stan, 2 men were buying 2 frozen pizzas. They both looked early to mid-20s, one with blonde hair and one with black hair. I didn't think anything suspicious of this at first, until the black-haired one said, "So Livian, did anyone else ever tell you what the necklace meant?" I was absolutely stunned. My real name is not Livian. It's been my username on everything since I was a kid, but no one has ever used that name for me in real life. Though I realized one of them must have been Stan, I just pretended to not know what he was talking about, and he said, "Never mind," and paid for his pizzas, and the 2 of them left. I was concerned, because I'm not sure exactly how he found me. As I was walking home, I saw the 2 of them in a car, driving on the road next to me, and both of them gave me a brief death stare. I didn't know which one of them was Stan until I saw one of them again. I assumed it was the blonde one, since he was the one who talked to me, but I actually never saw him again. I saw the black-haired one again several times, always standing or walking next to someone, but it was a different person every time. In all of these sightings, Stan never talked to me. He'd just make the same death stare at me, usually talking to whoever he was with. After a while, he walked up to me and talked to me for the first time, asking me if I took down any of the Reddit posts. I feigned ignorance again, but this time, he kept pushing. I said, "Dude, leave me alone," and walked away. I hadn't called the police yet because Stan didn't intimidate me that much, and he never seemed hostile. But one day, on the way home from the laundromat, I got a little concerned when I saw the same car behind me for the whole drive home. I got really paranoid when I realized it looked a lot like Stan's car, which I had only seen once. I did 3 left turns, but he seemed to catch on and turned right. When I made it around the block and got back home, Stan was parked right in front of the apartment complex, just standing as he looked directly at me. I rolled up my windows, pulled out my phone, and dialed 911. He walked up to me and started knocking on my window. The police showed up and talked to him. I don't know what exactly he told them, but they didn't really do anything. They asked if I had any proof of him stalking me before. I showed them his comments and direct messages, but they didn't seem interested. He told them he'd go home and not talk to me, and they seemed satisfied. Thankfully, I haven't seen him again, or any of the people I saw him hanging out with.
Okay, I want to start by saying this actually happened. This isn't some creepy story or something I made up. I still have trouble sleeping alone because of it. Even now, years later at 27, I check every closet and lock every door at least 3 times before bed. So yeah, here's why I don't stay home alone anymore. I was 16, almost 17F, living with my mom and my little brother, Ryan, like 7 at the time. My mom worked night shifts at a nursing home, so I was usually the one watching Ryan when she was gone. Since he was younger, he'd be asleep by 8, and I'd just do my thing. Watch TV, scroll on my phone, eat junk food. You know, typical teenager stuff. We lived in this little one-story house on the edge of some woods. It wasn't totally isolated, but there weren't many neighbors nearby either. I used to love having the house to myself at night, until all of this happened. So, the first time I noticed something weird, it was small. I was in bed around 11 p.m., scrolling through my phone, when I heard this shuffling sound, like someone dragging their feet on the carpet. I froze. Ryan was asleep. My mom wasn't home. I sat there holding my breath, listening. It was quiet for a few seconds, and then I heard it again, a soft scuffing noise, like someone was moving real slowly through the living room. I grabbed my phone and crept out of my room, my heart pounding. I checked the front door, locked. The windows are locked. Nothing looked out of place. But then I noticed something that made my stomach drop. The hall closet was open, just a crack. We never left that door open, ever. I stood there for a second, my whole body on edge. I wanted to just turn around and go back to my room. But my dumbass decided to check. I pulled the door open fast. Nothing, just coats and shoes. I remember laughing at myself. I was just being paranoid. Still, I locked the closet door before I went back to bed. A few nights later, I woke up out of nowhere. At first, I didn't know why. Then I realized I could hear breathing. I was laying there completely still, my whole body locked up in fear. It wasn't coming from the hallway. It wasn't coming from outside. It was coming from inside my room. I grabbed my phone, my hands shaking, and turned on the flashlight. I shined it around. Nothing. The room was empty. The closet was closed. I barely slept the rest of the night. After that, I started feeling weird all the time. Like I was being watched. Like whenever I turned my back, someone was just out of sight, peeking around a corner. I told my mom, but she just brushed it off. Then, about a week later, she woke me up after coming home early from work. She looked off. She asked me why the back door was unlocked, and I assured her I'd locked it, and she told me it was unlocked and she just had to lock it. I knew, without a doubt, that I had locked it the night before, but I didn't argue. That night, I was on edge. I kept my bedroom door locked, and my phone in my hand, just in case. I woke out to more breathing, and just that light gut feeling that someone's watching you. My whole body went cold. I sat up, barely breathing, and listened. I noticed my closet door was open, which was also weird. I turned on my flashlight just in time to see it swing open another inch. And that's when I saw him. I swear to you, There was a man crouched inside my closet, skin pale as hell, hair greasy and matted. He was too thin, like he hadn't eaten in weeks, and he was grinning at me. I don't even remember getting out of bed. One second I was staring at him, the next I was slamming my door shut and running to Ryan's room. Ryan woke up crying as I grabbed him and ran out of the house, my phone already dialing 911. The cops got there fast. They found him still in my closet. Turns out he had been living in our crawl space for weeks. He had gotten in through a loose vent in the basement and had been sneaking into the house at night, watching us sleep, taking food when we weren't looking. But the worst part, when they pulled him out, they found something tucked behind my coats, a knife. The police said he was probably waiting for the right moment. I try not to think about what would have happened if I hadn't woken up that night. I swear this actually happened, and it fucks with me to this day. So, to the man in my closet, let's never ever meet again.
This happened in my family when I was about 5 years old, around 1997. At that time, we lived with my mom, grandmother, and grandfather in a 3-room apartment on the 6th floor in Ukraine, in Kherson City, in a large neighborhood called Shumensky. Those were criminal times in all post-Soviet countries. Not much changed since though, and I was raised very strictly from a young age not to trust strangers and never to open the door to anyone unfamiliar. One day, someone knocked on our door during the day. At home, it was just my mom and me. My mom approached the door and asked, "Who's there?" A male voice replied, "Open up, this is the police. We need to ask you some questions." My mom first looked through the peephole and indeed saw 2 men in police uniforms standing at the door. Only after that did she open the door. My mom asked them what the matter was and what had happened. In response, they started asking her who was currently at home and how many people were in the apartment. I came closer and saw them. They looked at me, and I got scared and ran into another room. At that moment, my mom sensed something was wrong and tried to close the door, but one of the men put his foot in the way and held the door with his hand, preventing her from closing it. My mom, now frightened, asked again what they wanted, but they just silently stared at her without answering. An eerie silence hung in the air. Suddenly, our neighbor opened her door. She lived on the same floor as us and was about to leave her apartment on an errand. The 2 policemen immediately changed their expressions, looked towards the neighbor, and she noticed them too. With a questioning look, she glanced at my mom. Then suddenly, the 2 men ran down the stairs and out of the building. It was terrifying, and we had no idea what they wanted, but one thing was clear. They had likely bought the police uniform somewhere or stole it, and were certainly not real police officers. So, fake policemen, let's never ever meet again.
You hear stories about people unknowingly squatting in other people's homes, but never think it would actually happen to you. It happened to me. About 10 years, I, 31F, was living alone in a 2-family house on the 2nd floor with my then toddler. For the story to make sense, I need to try and explain the layout and the backstory. My brother's close friend at the time lived on the 1st floor, and is the one who referred me to the landlord. We had private front entrances, but a shared back entrance with a staircase that ran from the basement all the way to the 2nd floor. I would frequently leave my back door unlocked because I had a habit of locking my keys in the house, and my downstairs neighbor could let me in the back door. The downstairs neighbor had a friend who was kinda down and out. He had a history of substance abuse, but was supposedly clean at the time. He was a relatively nice guy, and my neighbor had been letting him stay on his couch for a while. The neighbor had a 4-year-old daughter, and having someone constantly sleeping on the couch without any plans of finding a permanent living situation was becoming disruptive to their everyday lives. Neighbor tells him he needs to go. It was summertime, so the friend decides he's going to sleep on the couch on our covered porch. We tell him that's not acceptable, and when we asked him to leave, we meant the property in general. It had also become abundantly clear that he was using again, and his behavior had become somewhat erratic. He was also making a lot of unsolicited advances on me, which had become increasingly uncomfortable. He wasn't happy, but it wasn't our problem. He stopped coming around, and we no longer saw him around town. Fast forward a month or two, and I noticed things going missing. Jewelry, small amounts of money left around the house, lighters, inconsequential items I had written off as lost. This house was old with paper-thin walls. The back door in question was right next to the bathroom along one side of the shower. It also made a very distinct noise when opened. One day my car was at the mechanic, so it probably appeared that I wasn't home. I'm showering and I swear I hear the back door open. I freeze, practically stop breathing. But after a few minutes, when nobody murdered me, American Psycho style, I wrote it off again. A notorious wimp, and had a history since childhood of thinking every strange noise was a potential murderer. This was a long time ago, so I don't remember the exact length of time, possibly a few weeks. The basement was really big and shared, and the landlord also stored stuff down there. It was very packed with some very dark corners. We rarely went down there. The landlord comes by one day and goes down to the basement. He hears a strange noise, grabs a baseball bat, and finds this man in our basement. The man pushed the landlord down, runs out of the house and down the street. We call the police, who find him hiding in a trash can around the corner. Can't make this shit up. Upon further investigation, we find the basement window had been ever so slightly propped open. In a back corner behind some boxes was a nest of blankets filled with our missing items, plus some drug paraphernalia. It reminded me of creatures nest under the stairs at Grimald Place. If you know, you know. He had also left his flip phone behind in the chaos, where we found a lot of pictures of me sleeping. This man had been high on crack, living in our basement and regularly entering my apartment both when I wasn't home and when I was sleeping for months. While he seemed like a nice guy, he was regularly high on hard drugs, and that changes people. I still get chills knowing he could have done anything to me and my child, and I would have never seen it coming. The worst part is that the charges somehow got dropped, and they never even consulted us, and they never gave us an option as the victims. This was not even close to his first criminal offense. My state is notoriously soft on nonviolent criminals, regardless of whether it was a victimless crime or not. My local police department is also notorious for making deals in exchange for information on even small time dealers. We didn't get any justice. Luckily, this didn't have much lasting effect on my mental health, just more of a WTF. Can't believe that really happened. It feels like a fever dream. Jason, let's not meet.
I was dumb, naive. I craved attention more than anything. I met this dude on Facebook cause my posts at the time used to be public, and I'd write poetry every now and then. He DM'd me, complimenting my way of writing, and I felt flattered. We added each other and began communicating, mostly expressing our shared love for philosophy, the mysteries of life, and fate. I realized I was catching feelings, and before I could confess, he told me he was in a pickle with his love interest, whom his parents want him to marry. I asked him if he wants that, to which he gave me a vague reply, but in the same sentence, told me how he finds me perfect in every way, and that if things work out between us, he'd be the luckiest man to walk the earth. I was over the moon with that sentiment expressed to me, and vowed myself to never leave him no matter what. But here's the catch. The guy lied about his age and everything else to me. He lied about what he did for work, how he looked. He'd send me photos from 2008 to 9, and my clueless self used to think they were pics taken fairly recently. This kept going on for a few months until I begged him to video call me. He would be reluctant, but ended up relenting, and I realized he looked way too different from the pics I've seen. And that's when I also realized he's older, and not at all around my age. He told me he was 27, but the video call proved to me otherwise. He would also give me a lot of crap and not text me for 12 plus hours some days, and told me I shouldn't wait for him and that he'd get back to me whenever feasible. Obviously, that never sat right with me, and every time I'd try to talk to him about it, he'd make me feel like a villain and attack me for wanting to control him, that I'm treating him like a bird that's meant to be caged, whatever that meant. Things came to an impasse between us, and he kept giving me crap about how I'm the bad guy, and the stuff he told me about himself was contradicting at best. I decided to leave him. When I expressed my dissatisfaction and decision to leave, he went livid, called me all sorts of names and accused me of wasting his time and effort he put into the whole relationship, and how he's in the process of fighting his parents over me. That was not in my knowledge, nor would he prefer to talk about his family with me despite my insistence. This man remained a mystery, and no matter the amount of prying, he'd never open up. I blocked him on social media and switched my number off. The days that followed afterward were quiet and peaceful, and I believed that was the end of it. Until he showed up at my school. I had given him my address of my school, where I lived. He was aware of my mobility like the back of his hand. He also managed to bypass security and got inside the premises of my campus, seemingly with ease. He forged his identity and posed as a friend of my dad's. When I saw him, he looked older, much older than the person I saw while FaceTiming. He blocked my way and demanded answers. He got aggressive and almost gave chase cause I ended up running in the opposite direction. Security was called, of course, and nothing escalated beyond the commotion he temporarily caused. My mother was called and she took me home with her after having a 2-hour meeting with the principal. The guy was let off the hook with a warning, and he drove back from where he came, a different city. After this incident, he continued to bombard my phone with messages demanding answers. Now you must be wondering why I didn't get the police involved or issue a restraining order against him. In my country, there's no such thing as the latter, and getting the police involved also means putting your reputation on the line. It's a messed up situation to be in. The only way to get rid of him was for me to go radio silent, and that's exactly what I ended up doing. Months passed, and I'd see pictures of my cat posted by him on his profile, through which he'd try reaching out with. He'd created multiple accounts and texted me with pictures of my cat. For a year and a half, my life was miserable, and I'd constantly be on edge. Sleep became impossible, and I always feared the possibility of re-encountering him. It's been many years since, and I'm glad he's gone. So yeah, online ex-BF that catfished me and tried to endanger my life and well-being. Let's not freaking meet, yeah?
I'm not sure if this is going to be that interesting of a story, since it happened at such a young age that the story had to be relayed onto me through family. When I was around 1 to 2 years old, me and my sister were at our aunt's house. My mom, me, and my sister were outside in the front yard, and she said she needed to go inside for something and left my sister outside with me. My sister was around 5 to 6 at the time and should never have been put in charge of a baby. Anyway, but during the time she had left, and it was just the two of us outside. Apparently, someone had grabbed me, and no one noticed until my mom came back outside, and I was nowhere to be seen. They immediately freaked out, and my uncle of the time had drove around the area searching for me. He had a feeling about who he knew it was, and was on the verge of breaking into the guy's house because he banged on his door multiple times and was ignored. My aunt must have talked him out of it, because they ended up just going back home and called the police. When the cops got there, they drove around and ended up finding me multiple blocks away, just standing outside of the very house my uncle said was the guy. They never made any arrests on the guy, and I don't even think they questioned him. My family says that they think once he heard the sirens coming, he panicked and just left me outside to be found, because there was no way a baby that just recently started walking could have wandered that far off on my own. So, guy who kidnapped me and left me on the side of the road, let's not ever meet again.
Thank you for watching. Share your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to subscribe. Good night.